All right, next report will be screening and assessment. Will that be you, Shannon?
Yes.
All right.
So we met on March 14th as a work group and we discussed our recommendations for our action plans. And we assessed kind of our current future delegated priorities. And we kind of updated our document on that. We received an update from Technology Subcommittee on the Juvenile Report Project. And we also received updates from IOCS education team on our training efforts that we had requested. So our recommendations that had arisen, we had total of 16 recommendations. We completed 7 and 16, number 7 and 16. We have some that are ongoing priorities and they are consistent with existing policies and practices. Recommendation 3 was our IS policy recommendation. That was approved by the State Board of Directors in December, and it'll go into effect July 1st to coincide with the changes to the standard juvenile reports covered in our recommendations of 5 and 6. We had a subcommittee on those that helped with those changes as well. Those were also approved by the director and effective July 1st. So IOCS and Port Technology are preparing a session for probation officers. They completed that at the April conference. So officers at the annual conference were able to see the changes, understand the changes. The project team is finalizing the instructions, text within the technology. And so we deem those completed. Our recommendations 12 and 13 were current priorities. IOCS is working on stakeholder training. And we just ask that everybody here kind of help with, once that gets done, kind of encouraging stakeholders to do the training. It should be online. And also, we are looking at IOCS is continuing to do CQI and looking at future booster sessions and addressing training with related skills, interview training, stuff like that, that our officers can utilize. Recommendations 14 and 15, we felt should be delegated to IOCS and the data work group to complete as resources allow, just when they have time, because I know they're busy. The tasks that we are working on, we're continuing to look at current and ongoing priorities. We reviewed our action plan. The ongoing tasks are part of the work that IOCS and a portion collaboration with the data work group. But the work group believes that we should be disbanded. So I guess I'm asking for you to fire me today. I don't know that you've ever had that request, but we think that our work has been completed as getting that big project of that updated program that'll take effect July 1st in Insight. And so we're asking that we be disbanded, but we're willing to collaborate. As a group, we all said, we still want to participate and do the work if necessary or somebody needs us, we're willing to do that. So we'd like to collaborate with IOCS, support its work with ongoing trainings as needed, and aid in making any connections for training opportunities across the state with that. The work group, if we are to continue, if you guys decide not to fire me, the work group does need a few stakeholders that we would need to replace on our group, and that would be DCS, public defenders, due to those vacancies that we have. Our big ask is that we get all the stakeholders to learn the IAS, the risk and needs, kind of what we are doing. So that's what we have.
Okay. So, well, on one of the points, you're asking the data work group to take on recommendations 14 and 15. So Chris, I'm going to speak to you again. 14 is that IOCS, in collaboration with critical stakeholders, should continue to engage in ongoing study of the IAS tools for the purpose of improving adherence to evidence-based practices, assessing and maintaining the reliability and validity of the IAS tools, and to further inform improvements to training and education offerings. And then 15 is that IOCS should, subject to available resources, conduct research into the use of complementary assessments along with the IAS results to support jurisdictions' use of those tools to support individualized decisions and case planning. This level of research can further inform jurisdictions on policies, procedures, and implementation of best practice to reduce future involvement with the justice system. Do those seem to be in the lane of the data work group?
I think so. Yes, absolutely.
Okay. All right. So I believe that was the only delegation. I
Yes.
heard. Okay. Any other questions for Shannon? Any opinion on whether the screening and assessment work group should continue to meet? And I don't know that we can take official action today, but we can get some feedback.
I'll just go ahead and say it. If you guys have completed the tasks that you have been assigned and you have no other purpose to meet, I think meeting for the sake of meeting is counterproductive. So I wouldn't have any objection.
I would agree with that, and maybe members of that work group could be shifted to another work group that's maybe lacking some folks.
Okay. Judge Broadwell, did you have something to add?
I did not. I I accidentally got disconnected. So
Okay, thank you, Judge.
I'm so sorry.
Sorry, that
No
was
worries.
actually me, Judge, and I was just saying I concur with Magistrate Foley.
All right, thank you, Catherine. So Shannon, if I may ask you to go back to your group and ask the members of that group if they would like to be reallocated in a different way to one of the other work groups. And just bring that information back to the next meeting or let us know in between time by email.
I will do so.
Okay. I'm not hearing any objections, so we can pause the official action until the next meeting, but I'm not hearing any negative response, Shannon.
Thank you.
All right, the next work group update is from behavioral health, and Sarah, I'll ask you pull over the microphone.
All right, well, let me first say that I've been on this work group for just a couple of weeks. So I'm gonna read to you some of the information that has been shared with me. We, as you know, Senior Judge Dolahanty stepped away, and so I have big shoes to fill, but we are gonna do our best to continue to make some great progress because they have done some really cool things. And Brittany joined our work group, so thank you. I feel like maybe we should carpool. We keep ending up at lots of same places together. Yes. And so lots of changes happening with the that work group and just membership shifting. So we are I think ready to tackle some new and exciting things and sunset a few things that have happened. So the bench card subgroup actually created the bench card and guidelines document for the judicial and probation officers. The work product actually has been posted to the YJOC website. Message went out to all judicial officers. I think that was in late March, and then paper copies were provided to the juvenile judge officers at their summer conference just a week ago, maybe? Was
Yes.
that? Okay, yes. So we do believe that the work of that subgroup is complete at this point, and we'll kind of sunset that subgroup. Then we had the clinical process subgroup, and they've been working on proposals for standardizing definitions and outline to help providers with diagnostic and evaluations. The proposals have been discussed with the larger work group, but have not been finalized. In April, the work group subgroup discussed reviewing the most recent work product and adding additional members to the subgroup. And so I think we have more work to do there. I think trying to figure out common terminology so that we are all speaking the same language and understand what everyone is talking about would be a great path forward for lots of different, other work groups. And so I think that's a big undertaking, but something that the subgroup wants to continue to work on. Some of the things that were discussed in next steps and I guess gaps, right, in the behavioral health world would be trying to support the behavioral health grant implementation. Looking at like where there might be areas of the state that aren't accessing the funds. Who is accessing? Are they only accessing partial parts of that fund? And kind of maybe doing like a heat map of where that exists and where our gaps are, and then trying to figure out some solutions to help our communities apply for those and get those programs out there. So that would be something that they've requested that maybe we think about looking at, and then consider creating what they call practical guidance, best practices, and relevant law on telehealth. So similar to the bench card guidance document on the diagnostic and evaluations, doing something similar for telehealth. And I think that's an interesting topic right now. I happen to have been at a conference in DC with SAMHSA this week, and it was, a hot topic because it's a space that's constantly evolving. Yet we have such gaps in bandwidth, right, in some areas of the state. So while we have unique and creative solutions, they can't be used everywhere. And so how do we really make sure that we're aligned with what's available, what's legal, and what's best practice? And so that would be another place where the committee thinks we could be useful and helpful. We are meeting this month, so that will be our first meeting where my co-chair, referee Gowdy, and I will bring the group together and start kind of forging a path forward for next steps. And then we do have at least 4 more meetings scheduled. We'll talk to the group about how they feel about virtual versus in person. And we had some thoughts and ideas about that also, really trying to make sure we can come together to have those important conversations, but yet not exclude people from across the state and our rural communities and how important that voice is. So trying to find a balance there. With that, I think that's it, unless there's questions.
To supplement a couple of items, one is that as a result of this work group's work, last week at the Juvenile Judges Conference, Dr. Woolsey and Dr. Burden from the Department of Correction gave a presentation to judges. And I think it was eye-opening for a lot of judges. So in conjunction with that bench card, what a diagnostic evaluation is and what it is not. I think judges were sort of surprised about what it is not, what it entails, how it's done. Each doctor walked through the stages, what is done. I think several were surprised to know that the youth who are placed there for diagnostic evaluation do interact in the same pod or unit with people who are there for intake. So those intake youth may cycle out and then a new group may come in. So there is very much interaction between what you might think of in the adult world as general population versus a specialized population. So that was concerning to some of the judges in the audience. I also point out that the bench card this group approved that a couple of months ago. That was presented at the Juvenile Judges Conference, but we also saw in the last behavioral work group meeting that the other multidisciplinary groups were interested in using that bench card as well. So Department of Correction, Department of Child Services, community mental health centers, they're saying this would be good information for our people to know what courts and probation officers are learning and how they're using this document. So I think that is a step toward speaking the same language. As Sarah mentioned, trying to get everyone on the same page regarding just what we call things. And in regard to supporting the grant, the grants work group, pardon me. I think at this point, we've seen a bit of a dip in number of applications because we've asked communities to say, find a program in your community, have the service provider partner with the juvenile justice agency and let us know what you need money for. But there are large service gaps where there just simply are no service providers in a particular county. And for a service provider to contract with a small county for 20 referrals is probably not realistic. That's probably not worth the time and effort it takes to manage a program. And so potentially I could see this behavioral health work group looking at service gaps. So heat map where money is going, where it's not going, and kind of overlaying. In this area, we have 9-month waiting lists for diagnostic evaluation, or,
Yeah.
they can't get cognitive behavioral therapies, that sort of thing. So I think that could be a good use of behavioral health work group to try to get the money where it needs to go and try to fill those large scale gaps. We know they exist. So to the extent all of you are seeing long delays in services, complete lack of services, let us know that so that we can start to target some of those particular service gaps.
Um,
And Sarah?
yeah, I will say, so you're actually on my list to email today because of my work with Champ.
Right.
We actually have already done some of this work.
Cool.
So when I read the notes from the last subcommittee meeting, I was like, okay, we all see this as a problem, right? And so we've already overlaid where the funding is and where the EBPs exist, right? And where they don't. So we have some of those visuals already. And we have some ideas on how to help through our CHAMP work, maybe support communities in applying and bringing services. So you'll get an email from me today on that so that we can talk a little bit more about the work that we're doing on CHAMP with CJI to think through some of that.
Mhm.
Yeah, Children with High Acuity Needs Project. So that we have presented here before, but it's been a while, right? Since we've done some presentations for this group, but it's been continuing. There's lots of momentum with this administration to continue that good work and programs that where we're seeing gaps and piloting projects and things like that. So
Great. Jade?
I was just gonna say on the CJI website, we have a map that shows if there is funding available in a certain county or area. We're also working on a map with our research division that will kind of be a heat map and show some gaps and places where, maybe we need to do some extended outreach or look at who the CMHC in that area is and see if, we can hit them and show up on their door and knock and see if they can help or what else might be available. And maybe, DMHA knows some provider that's out there that's not on the radar, right? That we could even talk to. So we're working on that from our side as well. So
Judge King?
As far as the heat map goes, it would show funding available. I guess that would only pertain to diversion and alternative, since the other funds are pilot and aren't really attributed to any specific county. And probably what you'll run into is when you have that, you're gonna have a lot of funding probably available in the rural counties for programming that those counties aren't attracted to, probably. Yeah, just thinking out loud here. So what we're going to be looking at primarily, unless those funds could be used for maybe behavioral health things as well, because I think that's really where the primary need is. I mean, it's difficult to get a behavioral health program going when you don't have a whole lot of population, and it's nearly impossible to get a worthwhile diversionary or alternatives program going when you don't have a whole lot of population. So, you know, I just want everyone to keep that in mind when you look at, so, well, there's funding available, why isn't this being spent? It's just almost impractical to do, number one, and then number two, to the extent that it's not impractical to do, JDI is doing it currently, you know, so you're going to see a lot of funding available in those boxes, buckets, what have you. So I don't know, and maybe some of the new legislation might permit some ability to move that into some of the areas that might make more sense in a rural setting. But just my thoughts on that issue.
The legislation did make the formula a little more flexible. But right now we have the majority of the money remaining in every category. So I don't know that we're to the point where we need to move anything yet, but I think it's certainly open for conversation regarding the, you know, cap on funding per county of that funding formula. So that will be a task for, I think, the grants work group to talk about, vet and work group, and then bring the recommendation to this board. We know that there are gaps out there. We've just got to figure out the best way to work with the communities to get the services there.
We were happy to see this last round. Some of you may be familiar with Porter Stark Services up in Northwest Indiana. And they serve Porter and Stark County. So kind of, you know, both sides. Stark is very rural. Porter is not real rural. So we were happy to see that we had an applicant that could do both. So that was kind of nice. And so we're looking for other folks that kind of do that similar type thing to provide services.
And other partnerships that are growing seem to be schools. So school-based services, particularly in those rural communities that don't have a place, and there you don't have to deal with transportation issues, which can be very challenging in the larger, more rural counties. So we do have some organic things growing up out of these pots of money, but it's slow yet.
Sarah, you guys have already probably thought about this, but as you're exploring the whole telehealth option, have you all talked to Indiana Library Federation or the state library? We have so many internet deserts
Yeah.
in Indiana, and the folks who live in those deserts tend to utilize the internet provider that is their local public library. And public libraries are also becoming and have, or the past 30 years, becoming a big site for supervised parenting time. So a lot of libraries actually have built into their functionality some privacy rooms. So that might be an option for some folks, if you guys haven't already started those conversations.
I do not think that they have started much on it, just that my understanding is the last meeting they had, which I think was in April. I'm looking to Mindy to confirm, that this came up as like a topic that they think should be addressed in some way, and I don't think we've really gotten into any of the weeds of it yet.
Great idea.
Former library board of trustees.
And Sarah, just FYI, we had 3 judicial officers approach and volunteer for behavioral health work groups. So I'll give you those names and let your committee, you know,
That.
sort that out
Okay.
going forward. All right. Any other comments or questions regarding behavioral health? And we'll move on to diversion. Tracy?
That's me. Let's see, we last met May 28th, is that right? Yeah. And we're still just working on our main goal that's left on our list of getting that diversion directory up and running. We have gotten a bunch of responses back. In fact, we just, after our last meeting, sent out another form reminder just to chief probation officers. And so I think we're up to like 80 programs now. Individual programs that we can get up on the directory. So we're working with Court Tech now to get them, keep looking at Megan, sorry, but she's my in at the court. So we're working with Court Tech to get that up, and we've got the spreadsheet. We know what it's going to look like. So we're hoping to have a product by the end of the summer that we can at least show you what it's going to look like. We don't think it'll be final until sometime closer to the end of the year, but that's really our last focus, to get that up, have that as a resource for all counties, small and large, but especially small, to look and see, can I replicate this? Can I just maybe get with my donut county next door and glom onto, somehow find a way to also use this program for our fewer number of kids? So we're hoping once that builds, it will be able to help everybody look at that. And then we just see our ongoing, once that's done, it's obviously going to be a living document that's going to need changed, updated as programming ends or expands. But we're hoping it could then live with who at the court, Megan, the youth justice team.
We talked about the directory being something our group would still meet annually.
Right.
Really, right. And then there was a discussion around the work the youth justice team does in terms of technical assistance, and where does that kind of coincide with or align with the work?
Yes, because we're just trying to figure out, like, ongoing, obviously we want to make sure that the programs are good, that there's some kind of eye on looking at maybe once a year kind of assessing these programs and lifting up those that are doing a really good job. And maybe that's something we would have ongoing at the court. But that as our group, we canceled our July meeting. We're just working on getting our directory up. We know we'll meet at least one more time, maybe twice, to all look at the directory and then lift it up to this group. But we probably, like Shannon's group, are going to be phasing out or asking at some point to kind of get some guidance from you about how to sunset, whether we just stop being a subcommittee, or whether we need to have a group or a smaller group that maybe meets once a year, just to discuss the directory, what the court's doing around diversion. Are we still lifting up best practices, that kind of thing. So that's where we are right now. Hopefully the next time we meet, we will be able to show you something. I don't know where we are with Court Tech, but close. We're getting close to having that directory up.
All right, questions for Tracy? At conference last week, I gave the YJOC update and did provide some examples of specific programs. So got some information from CJI about particular grant awards with early data or early indicators of things going well in their community. So I think that courts find that very helpful to hear specifically what our court's doing across the state. So I'm excited to see the product, the diversion directory, and I think it's an excellent idea to think, this program exists in this county, so can all the surrounding counties collaborate with little effort to grow those programs. So thank you for all the hard work. I know it's been a lot. It's like herding cats, I think, to get all of the surveys from the program. So those of you going home to your home county, ask your folks if they've completed those surveys. And if they haven't, please ask them to complete those and send them in to the diversion work group. All right, next up, transitional services, Magistrate Foley.
So we actually last met on May 1st as a group. Terry did want me to pass on the word that the Teams channel that was created as part of our collaboration sub-work group is up and running. They've had their first staffing. I'm told that it went really well, and some creative solutions were suggested for further services for that particular youth who is being released from the Division of Youth Services. So very excited about the initiation of that and seeing the policies and procedures that we kind of threshed out being put into play. So that is going well. We continue to work on the draft of our best or recommended practice guide. I don't know that we've really come up with an official name for it. We thought we might have at least an initial first draft for everybody to review. Judge Kenworthy actually got a preview of it and had some really amazing comments and critiques on it. So we actually met with Joseph, our staff attorney, and with Tyler actually last week. Terry and I did. And so we're going to be doing some revamping. So hopefully you all will be seeing a second, third, fifth draft at the next meeting for your critique as well.
I've not been on the Teams channel, but is there any way we can kind of get an illustration maybe of how that works? I was just, thinking that would might help judicial officers such as myself that, have never done it before.
So the Teams channel is actually run by the Division of Youth Services, and it's intended as a collaboration between state agencies for kids who are transitioning out of Division of Youth Services that they don't have any place to go. So it's kind of a limited subset of kids. So these are kids where they've sent the advance notice out, but either parents are refusing to take them back or things of that nature. So it's not really for transitional services. It's really for placement of that particular child.
Okay, so is it a discussion then, or
It's kind of staffing a case as to what can be done to help this child. Either we have some kids who are 18 and families refusing to take them back. We actually have kids who are younger than 18. It's kind of the same thing. So this is, thankfully, that's kind of the exception to the rule for the kids who are released by DYS. But one of the issues that we spotted as part of our recommendations in the report was a lack of collaboration between housing, I'm not DCS.
Yeah, I've been speaking, Terry about that, so, yeah.
Yeah, so just for that particular group of kids.
So is there need for collaboration with the local stakeholders, probation, prosecutor, public defender? Is there need for that? Or are we talking sort of state level agency folks? And I think that's your question, Judge King.
Yeah, I think that's fair to say, because in my mind's eye, I'm like, what is this Teams
Right,
channel? Is it something that I can use or not? And
It's essentially
the judge
intended.
involved? Who else is involved?
It's
Is it just
intended as a
DYS?
tool for Division of Youth Service.
Okay. So DYS is the only one that uses it.
And they initiate the collaboration.
And who do they initiate that with? And is that with the parent, with probation, with court? Who?
With the other state agencies.
Okay.
So we're already past the point where when this collaboration occurs, we're already past the point where the local court has been notified, hey, this child is being released. The vast majority of juvenile judges don't respond to those 40-day and 10-day letters. I mean, that's one of the things that we know from our focus groups is the vast majority of the state are not doing any type of transitional services for their kids that have been committed to DYS. So it's at that point where the child has completed the services and now they need to know what's the next step. They've contacted family. Family is either not responding to the contacts, which is my understanding of this particular subset of youth. That's kind of the majority issue is family has ghosted DYS. So is that child gonna go to placement as a Department of Child Services kid? Do we need to do a dual status? Is the child now 18 and has aged out of the system? Does that child need help through workforce development? Does that child need help with housing authority? So it's really kind of those state level partners who are trying to leverage their information on where can we get this kid's services to be successful post DYS.
Yeah.
So if the court says, no, we're gonna be providing transitional services, then that child is taken care of and would not be part of this staffing.
Okay, I think that helps.
And then starting that process earlier on before the discharge date.
Yes.
Because a lot of times it's happening at the discharge date and there's crisis like, oh, where do they go? Where do they go? So I know DCS is having those conversations at least 60 days prior to that discharge. So.
Yeah.
That helps. I mean, it sounds like a state level, and if the court's reassuming, and then it has nothing to do with the team channel.
Correct.
Okay.
Any other questions? All right, thank you, Magistrate Foley. All right, any other items for discussion today? Anything anyone would like to talk about regarding initiatives in your independent agencies that you think our group should know about?
I feel like there's a ton going on at PMHA. One of the things that we're doing, is looking at CMHW, CMHI, and how those programs. So CMHW is, funded through Medicaid, right? You have to be Medicaid eligible. And if kids are not Medicaid eligible, they can go to the I. The I is run through the Department of Child Services and is all state funded. We have lots of children who get excluded. So the CMHW, the primary goal, right, is to keep kids in their community, wrap around them, provide those intensive services, trying not to go into higher level of care, residential treatment, those kind of things. So the W excludes because of the type of waiver it is. There are certain diagnoses that get excluded from that program. So if you are on Medicaid but are diagnosed and have autism, you cannot be in the W program and you have to go over to the I program, right? So it's been around for 20 years, probably,
Yeah.
very long time, right? So we're just looking at one, is it the right program to meet the needs of our children in Indiana? And if it is, right, if it is the right program and it's doing what it's intended to do and we like it, how can we better leverage more Medicaid dollars to support those kids so we're not using so much state funds when children are eligible for Medicaid, right? So we're trying to figure out, are there better options moving forward? So if you have experience with the W or the I and you have thoughts about what that should look like in the future, we would love to hear from you and are going to be scheduling some listening sessions to hear around people's experiences.
All right. Questions for Sarah regarding that?
Yeah, we could. I'll connect with you and
Any other items for discussion?
I'll just say Judge Graham presented at the juvenile justice
Yeah.
last week and presented her upstream collaboration on the DCS side. And I'm stealing that because it's essentially like JBAI and the DCS side as I read it. So she has some great materials she was able to provide to Ripley County. So that's something that we're going to be tackling, I guess, here soon, hopefully. And it's always, it's very helpful to have the materials already prepared for you. So I would recommend that to other counties.
It's sort of a happy story to close today is one of the vignettes from a grant awardee, Tippecanoe County, actually also Judge Graham's county, indicated there was a young man who'd come into the system having been arrested for battery with injury. There was domestic dispute, conflict between child and parent. They find out at intake the child has autism, ADHD, and there's a disclosure of sexual abuse by an adult. All of this, coming to a head. And referral is sent for services and the wait list is 4 months long. So they were able to use their grant funding pot of money to get that child and parent immediately into services. They referred, they were seen that same day, and the youth's words were he felt such relief and connection that he asked for another appointment the next day and they got him right in the next day. So that's what we mean here. If there's a service gap where this young man is not going to get services, is never going to get seen in 4 months and continue with all of these things going on in his life, that's what these dollars are designed for. So to the extent that we can use the dollars for exactly that reason, that's the work that makes us all excited, right? So I want to thank all of you for working so hard to make sure that we do just that. We meet the needs of these youth who are really struggling. Anything else today? All right, then we will just be adjourned early today. Thank you, everyone.
Everyone take care.
Thank you, Judge Broadwell.
My brother is scared.
Oh, yeah?
I did.
Really? Oh,
Yeah. Right.
He's great.
With him ready to shape for you.
I have to tell him that we met,
Yes.
that you gave me that directive.
Tell him. I said, getting with right to shape. He had to go. And I got to, I see him about once a week. So. I appreciate it.
That would be very nice. That's kind of one of those biggest pressing day-to-day issues right now.
Yeah, I think there's enough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you had
And I know there's.
Hey,
how are you? I guess that's more of the program inflation. Everything is fine. I know, Bill.
Yeah. I'm just gonna do.
So she's going.